Tom Campbell backstage in Sheffield. We have just concluded the show for RevPro on Sunday after what has been a very busy weekend with Andy Quildan now. Andy, before we get into this weekend, Emerson Jane is a name that's come up a lot online. Emerson Jane suffered an injury on Saturday night, was unable to compete tonight in Sheffield. What's the latest on Emerson Jane?
Yeah, so basically our show in Stevenage yesterday, she got into a tussle, a very physical tussle with her own tag team partner, Kanji. And she had, I think she rolled her ankle in that tussle. She was favouring it a little bit after the show. She was treated by the medics and was told to kind of just rest it and see how it is this morning. And then she woke up and it was completely swollen, couldn't bear weight on the ankle. So we had it checked out when she arrived at the building, and she wasn't deemed medically fit to compete. So we kind of had to look out for it was obviously just an early show, and it's far from our normal territories. So we reached out to Pursuit Pro Wrestling, of course, Liam Slater's Pursuit, who are from nearby, and we were able to get Natalie Sykes on short notice, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a little bit. But obviously, it's a big opportunity for her to kind of step up tonight. So that was great that we were able to do that. Obviously, Emerson Jane still made her presence felt on the show. You know the type of girl that Emerson Jane is.
Oh yeah,
she wanted to compete in the worst way possible. She made sure her presence was felt. She made sure her physicality was felt. But obviously, she's going to take a little while off, and she'll be back to it, I'm sure, in no time at all.
We wish all the best to Emerson Jane for a full and speedy recovery. Being that as said, thoughts on the weekend, because it's the start of this new era for RevPro, and this was a really crucial part of the early stages of this new era, wasn't it?
Well, it's funny because we kind of just use the phrase new era. We kind of fell into that. It's not like this is a new generation from when we grew up, you know. This is basically what happened was we lost our 229 venue, our monthly venue in London, and we were told that this is the last show was obviously the show before the anniversary show, and then the first show at our new venue, the Portchester Hall, just happened to be the first show after the anniversary show. So that's where that new era came from. But then obviously the wheels really were all set in motion, because on that show, obviously, we announced the anniversary show for next year, and it kind of felt like an appropriate analogy to almost think of this as a new era, and mainly because I feel that so many times, and I touched on this when I spoke to Dave Bradshaw last, and by the way, you got much more energy than Dave. I love it. So,
oh, Dave!
Yeah, I'm sure you don't support us. Do you support a football team?
West Bromwich Albion, if anybody else.
Well, that's fine, because that's that's not as threatening to me as Dave Bradshaw. So that's fine. That's fine. Where was I? Oh yeah, so
the new era,
yeah,
how you kind of fell into the concept.
And Dave wouldn't be able to pick me up there either. So, so we just kind of fell into that mindset of a new era. But like, I feel like last time I picked on the fact that when so many times in independent professional wrestling specifically, you see promotions who they get to their big show. So be it in WrestleMania or whatever the show may be, you get to your flagship show, you build to that show. For us, obviously, it's our anniversary show. And then the show happens, and then the next day comes, and it's reset, we start again, right? And for RevPro, what I wanted to make it very clear is we never do that. The story, the drama, everything continues, and I feel that, maybe we could chapter it a little bit. That sounds bad, doesn't it?
No, you mean like story arcing.
Yeah, I just think too much about, oh my goodness, he's used the term chapter.
Oh, see, that'll upset some people out there.
Yeah, but that's not but obviously that's not what I mean by that. I just mean you can kind of look at different stages, different phases, so I'd look at the start of RevPro as starting the revolution, those early days. And then obviously there's a Your Call era where we got hot there. And, you just look at bookmarking every single stage. And this is very much a new era for us in the sense of, we've got this new London home. We're working very much towards our next anniversary show, which is a whole year away. But I feel like it gives you that vision, and it gives you that that gives fans something to look forward to. It gives all the wrestlers something to work towards. And it's just so cool that, like, even though obviously we work towards each show, we know there's the magnificent Wembley Arena looming in the distance, and as we get through each show, it gets closer and closer and closer. And I think that's exciting. And you know, and you tie that in with all the European shows we're doing, exciting new talent coming in. And yeah, it's an exciting time. So if you don't want to call it a new era, you can call it the exciting era.
Exciting era. As a matchmaker, obviously Wembley, as we mentioned just there, is next year. But mentally, how far are you in terms of putting that bill together? Obviously, there's a long way to go, and there's a lot of things that deviate along the way. But you must have already in your mind's eye kind of where you want to go.
Yeah, so I always say there's a lot of wrestling to get done between now and X, right? All the time. But yes, in my head, I've got the ideal card that we would like to have, right? But the thing is, it's like the bigger picture, right? So I always have the bigger picture. So even though you might look at it and go, oh, today's show in Sheffield, we announced matches on Friday, Saturday, and indeed this morning, right? And you might be like, oh, well, there's no thought gone into those matches being put together, because why are they being announced so late in the day? That's just a symptom of one man doing the work of 100 men. And it's probably not an exaggeration either. Like, if you were to kind of look at, you know, some of the shows I do and like all the work I do, you'd think that, you know, often there's like teams of people who are responsible for stuff like this. And this is just a one man army. And I think we're able to trick people by using our passion and drive to be able to make the impossible possible. Right. And I think that because of that, people assume that, you know, like, oh, there's booking committees, matchmaking committees, there's, you know, marketing teams, there's this, that, and the other, you know, there's venue bookers, there's travel bookers, there's hotel bookers, there's flight bookers, there's this, that, and the other. But no, it's just me, right? And we're slowly growing it. We're slowly bringing good people around us and making stuff happen. But that's just a symptom of that, basically.
Yeah.
And having a life as well on top of that. And the fact that we were in the build up to the anniversary show, to sound like I'm making excuses, like when I got my homework in late. But then, you know, when we're in the build up to...
Did your dog eat the card for Sheffield?
Yeah, I never had a dog, so I'd say the cat, and that wasn't very realistic. But yeah, so we just built, you know, just so much stuff piles up, but there's always, you saw, like, from everything that came out tonight, everything is of consequence, right? And there's always that bigger picture. Of course, we know where we're going, where we're headed, but there's always variables along the way. And that's a beautiful thing about pro wrestling, because you might think you're going in one direction and the fans take you in another direction. Right, someone might suddenly get hot. You might go to Barcelona and discover a Zazoya, you know, and all of a sudden he's like, we need to get this guy on all our shows, and then plans change in that direction, you know. So there's so many different variables. Someone might get signed to a company. Yeah. Someone might wind up going on tours for another company, you know. So there's variables along the way. But big picture, of course, I know where we're going, and of course I know where we're headed, and the direction of where we're headed. So some of the stuff, some of the ideas I have, and some of the matches that I want to put together, I had in my mind since last year's anniversary show, right?
I was going to ask you how much the anniversary show that we've just had differed from the vision that you had a year ago.
That's a very interesting question, actually.
And then whether it gives you any indicators to how that might change.
Do you know what? I think that between the 11th and 12th year anniversary show, obviously there were some changes to what I pictured, but for example, the Michael Oku and Luke Jacobs match, that was in my mind from that day.
Right. You knew.
And JJ Gale versus Tomohiro Ishii, that was in my mind from that day. We need to make these matches happen. We need to get them over the line, right? This year's anniversary, there was a lot of changes, but Josiah versus Zack Sabre Jr. was one we always wanted. Oku and Leon Slater. But there's variables. Everything changes along the way, you know. So that's my job as a matchmaker, to try and get get these matches over the line. I think I've done it pretty famously over the years, right? Not many people can say they managed to get Vader and Will Ospreay in a ring with each other, right? Kurt Angle and Zack Sabre Jr. in a ring with each other, right? So I've got kind of good experience with, like I say, getting it over the line, making it happen, right? And it's just like, your only limitation in terms of matchmaking is your imagination. Who knows what we can achieve with it? But I think it's pretty solid. Maybe one day I'll start recording a secret journal, and then in 10 years' time I'll release it and say, this is what I've planned, and this is what the final cards looked at. But again, like I say, like I was saying to the guys earlier, like now my matchmaking board, I used to just write in pads, right? And now my matchmaking board's a whiteboard. Find it a lot more effective because I can keep rubbing stuff out and changing my mind. And so, like, look, stuff does change. You do change your mind, and you do, and I do look at it from. I always say, like, with professional wrestling, this is like do you remember those booking shoot interviews, right?
Oh yes,
this is one of those now. This is what this has become.
I like,
right? But I always say, like, with professional wrestling, what you want to do is a buffet of styles. You want to have a little bit of something for everyone. So you might be like, oh, this match isn't my cup of tea, but I can guarantee you there'll be something on the card that is your cup of tea. And because we're not oversaturating one specific style of wrestling, the styles make matches, right? Because we're not oversaturating one specific style of wrestling, you might even watch that other style of wrestling and be like, oh, I actually like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we try to deliver a little bit of everything for everyone. And I think that when I look across this weekend, that's exactly what we've done. When I look across the anniversary shows, that's exactly what we did. And that's what you try to do when you're putting together these match cards. So that's more what happens when we're rubbing stuff out and putting stuff in. It's when you look at it and say, oh, we've not got any, big, what is it they say in AEW? Big men slapping meat or
meat.
Meat
slapping meat.
Whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? But it might be like we've not got enough high flying, or we've not got. Do you know what I mean? So like we kind of always look at it and say, and then it's like you could put two high flying wrestlers against each other. You could put a high flying wrestler versus a power wrestler. Let's see what happens. Mm-hmm. You could look to pit technique versus power, like we did today with Kanji and Rio. Do you know what I mean? And it all has different returns, and that's what wrestling is why wrestling is so beautiful, because it's a sport and it's an art all at the same time, and it really is a game of human chess. It's an old cliche, but it really is. So that's what excites me as someone putting together cards, and what I look for as a wrestling fan. And that's the way I approach all of this. As a wrestling fan, what do I want to see as a wrestling fan? How can I deliver it? And that's what we do.
You mentioned Rio and Kanji there, an absolute show stealer of a match between those two tonight. And we talked about it just before we came in here. Just we're in this position now where RevPro has possibly the deepest, most intense women's division, not just in RevPro's history, but anywhere at the moment. And has that kind of come together by design, or is that just a case of a lot of circumstances coming together all at once?
Well, that's what it's all by design, but like but you do have to have an element of luck. But what's luck? It's what happens when preparation meets opportunity, right? So so it's about having the right pieces at the right time. But this is what I've always said about, for example, the women's division is it has to start somewhere. Everything has to start somewhere. There has to be an element of patience about everything. You can't have everything now, right? We have to build this. We have to grow it. And that's exactly what we've been able to do. And it's about getting that solid foundation. And we've seen that, over the last 12 months with the Cutthroat Collective, with Kanji, with Danny Luna. But now we're adding names into the mix, which make it so exciting. And you add those new exciting names to the mix. And like I say, there's a proper foundation, there's a proper division. And that's ultimately what you're aiming for in any division. But it's across the board, right? So it's like that in the women's division. It's like that in the tag team division right now as well. And like I said, like, what our aim was with the Great British Tag League was to get some life back into that tag team division, because often when you're focusing on one area, another area might get neglected a little bit, and that's where the Great British Tag League came into play. But now you look at the tag division, you got your True and Laces, Sons of Southampton, obviously Good Brothers added to the mix now, you got Young Guns, Mills and Joshua, so many great tag teams, and you even look at further abroad to like GYV, and everyone wants to be involved, and that's what it's all about. So it's about creating those foundations, using those foundations to kind of build the division. And it's no different really to the mindset we take with Revolution Pro Wrestling in general, is creating that sustainable product and watering it and watching it grow. And that's kind of that position that we're in right now is I feel like very much a growth period. And it's a period where we are reaping the rewards of the hard work that we've put in.
And we're in a position now where we're close to the 100th live in London. And we announced the main event for that tonight. It's going to be Shah Samuels, undisputed British heavyweight champion, taking on former champion Michael Oku. What feels like a generational dream match. It's two very different, as we said earlier, chapters of RevPro in one match. That must feel really good as a fan and as a matchmaker to bring that to the 100th.
Yeah, and
live in London.
And like two champions that I've booked for many, many years. Yeah. And yeah, it's cool to be able to have a historic match like that, headline a historic show, because when we started running shows in London, it's no secret the wrestling in London was tough, right? There was a long time when there was no wrestling shows in London. And then almost at once you had like RevPro and Progress both started running regular events in London and making it work, right? Because everyone's like, there's no way wrestling can work in London. And now since that point, obviously we see other promotions popping up like Riot Cabaret, I don't want to be like, oh, he's missed out some names, whatever. But like, but they seem to be doing good stuff in Clapham, like obviously Eve have been doing consistent good stuff around London. So like now London's very much a hotbed for professional wrestling, and much more so than it was then. Maybe not as much as it was obviously in those days where we could, just sell tickets by announcing shows, but we have to obviously put the work in now, but that's fine. Happy to do so. But like the fact that we've reached 100 monthly shows in London, obviously with a little gap in between for some little pandemic or something.
Small match.
But like the fact that we've been able to reach 100 shows is fantastic. The fact that it's happening at the Porchester Hall is fantastic as well, because it's such a regal and grand venue and it deserves good professional wrestling. I always see people joking, you see like the local elections on the telly or whatever, and like people see the town halls where they put the local election in. Local erection?
Wow.
Wow.
That's us demonetized. Happy days.
But when you see those local elections and you see the town hall and you're like, oh, could you fit a ring in there? You know what I mean? That's the mentality.
That's when you know you're a wrestling booker, where every room you go into, we get a ring in here.
Yeah, but then you see stuff and you're like, that deserves a wrestling ring. That deserves professional wrestling. And Porchester Hall looks like one of those venues. It's a very British professional wrestling. It's a very British venue. It feels very Britishy, and that's it feels like very British wrestling. Chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. So it's very grand. It's very royal, and I think it's a perfect site for Live in London 100. And something that I keep pushing is the fact that this is a bigger venue for us. So we did our last one. I said the first phase in this mission, if you will, is we need to transfer across the fans from the 229 to the Porchester Hall. That happened for the first one, which I'm so thankful for. So I'm going to say thank you for everyone who attended, supported it, because it was a new venue, it was a different date than was originally advertised, it was a different night, and there were train strikes going on. Fortunately, we had a bit of respite on the tube strikes. They happened the next day because they looked at it and were like, oh guys, Live in London 99 is going on. This is a big show for RevPro, so we're going to wait the next day, right? So we were able to get in there. We were able to make it happen. The venue were happy. We were good to go. Get more dates in. We got every first Sunday of the month booked from now until the end of next year, and it now allows us a chance to try and grow it, because we've got space for many, many more people. And if we can do that, that's the next stage in this. That's the next stage in growing what we're doing, because those monthly shows are very much a big part of that sustainability plan, if you will, a big part of the RevPro universe keeping turning,
And the universe heads to Spain next weekend.
Absolutely.
What a lovely little thing to do in the middle of September. Just nip off to Barcelona for a bit. Did you think that? Do you know what? By September, sun will be gone. We'll be a bit sad. Let's book a show in Barcelona.
I'm not going to lie. That is exactly what
he did.
Yeah. And then I was like, one day in Barcelona is not enough. Let's book 2 shows in Barcelona. Let's make a weekend of it. So that's exactly what we're doing. Cheers Grand Prix this next week in Barcelona. weather forecast is looking good. The tournament's looking good. And it's going to be an exciting time. And I always say, like, I love the passion of the Spanish fans. I love the heat of the Spanish sun, and I love the quality of the in-ring wrestling. So that's a perfect combination, if you ask.
Is there a particular trio in the weekend of events that you're particularly excited about seeing?
I'm only going to say Los Tranquilos, and that's just because I'm just a big fan of a name which I name up with. But look, I'm not sure. I think it'll be announced by the time this comes out. Maybe not. Don't know. But the trio that I'm most intrigued by is Connor Mills, Jay Joshua, and Rio. So I think that's going to be a great combination. So looking forward to that next week in Barcelona.
And of course, obviously, Dave Bradshaw's not here to do it, but obviously with Wembley next year, any scoops?
It's a long way. It's like 12 months away.
Any scoops?
But what I will say is keep pre-registering your interest in Wembley Arena, because that will get you a part of an exclusive pre-sale at the start of October. And general tickets will go on sale, I believe, the second week of October. But make sure you pre-register interest. It's a specific Wembley registration page, revolutionprowrestling.com/Wembley. So make sure you get involved with that to make sure you get the best seats, make sure you're a part of history, show your support, because this show is so important to us. It's so important to British professional wrestling. And like I say, we always try to put our money where our mouth is. And I say it from day one, you know, anything I said, pick up any interview that I've ever done, and you can see the statements I've made, you can see my position on everything, and you can see that it's always been consistent throughout. And my consistent position is, who knows how far this can take us? Who knows how much Revolution Pro Wrestling can grow? But I promise you, I'm going to do everything I can to find out.
He is a man that always has a plan, and proof of that is in the fact that that I got my very first RevPro booking on the 20th anniversary of the Big Inn in Wigan. And I don't think that was by accident. I think that was something that you meticulously planned and put in place.
20 years ago, when I saw your commentary on the Big Inn in Wigan, I was like, the stars will align.
I'll be back in 2 decades.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe at the 10-year mark, and then I was like, no, we need to let the legend grow. And it has done.
Fester.
So, yeah,
I think it was.
So anyone who hasn't seen it, check out the Big Inn in Wigan as well, because
it is a thing. It is a thing.
It's a thing. It's certainly a thing.
Of all the matches they are, that's one of them. Andy Quildan, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much.